Welcome to Church for Skeptics, giving answers to the hard questions concerning the Christian faith. Your host and teacher is Dan Arsenault.
Hi, welcome to Church for Skeptics. My name is Dan Arsenault, and we've been doing this program now for a number of years. This is the 7th season, and I believe the 10th program. And what I hope to do in this program is to sort of bring to a conclusion of some sense all of this season. This season we've been analyzing some of the recent attacks on Christianity, putting a lot of obstacles in the way of people believing. People have come to believe through watching the History Channel and Discovery Channel, and there are a lot of biblically scholarly books out there that have promoted these things. Some of them have been just, what's the word I want to use, exaggerated by popular authors that are neither theologians nor historians nor textual critics for public consumption, unfortunately. The Da Vinci Code, specials on television, the Gospel of Judas, etc. And we've covered all those to show, number one, that what are called the Gnostic Gospels are not historically credible. They can't hold a candle. Now, the Gnostic Gospels are Gospels that were studied or discovered since about 1945. They were alternative versions of the life of Christ, perhaps, written by those who believed in Gnosticism, which was a sort of a mixture of Greek philosophy and mystery religion and so forth. And we're going to talk about mystery religions today. And we've shown that they can't hold a candle to the historical accuracy or credibility of the New Testament. It's a completely different ball game. And the second thing we have talked about, kind of hurriedly, I might add, on the last program was the idea of textual criticism. Can we have an accurate copy of the original New Testament, or the original Bible for that matter? And we found that yes, you can. The variant readings that are so broadly talked about today, an accusation of the idea that we can't produce a copy of the original, are simply spurious. There's only 1% of those variant readings that are even meaningful at all, and none of them change the teachings of the New Testament at all. And I think it's important, again, for us to understand that's what textual critics do. This is a special group of people. I can't imagine taking 25,000 manuscripts, laying them side by side, and going through every letter of every sentence of all of those to make a copy that's as close to the originals as possible. But that's exactly what they've done, and we can have real confidence that when we read the Bible, we're reading what was intended for us to read. On this program, we're going to present a final challenge to Christianity that's probably the most popularized and publicized. It comes from the idea, a very popular idea now, that all religions are basically the same. And one of the things that I have really tried to emphasize throughout all the seasons on this program, and will continue to do so, is that Christianity is unique. It's not like religions. It's different in 100 different ways from every other religion. It's in a class really by itself, both textually, historically, in its teaching, in every way, in the person of Jesus Christ, and we've really tried to show that. But the popular notion today is kind of like the notion that they had in the Roman Empire. In the Roman Empire, it was said that all religion, the public, it was said that all religions were equally true, which was kind of the popular notion of many in the Roman Empire, especially after the 1st and 2nd centuries. Philosophers, on the other hand, would say that all religions are equally false, and politicians would say that all religions were equally useful. So I'm not sure that a lot has changed here. But the charge today, and I'll just read it to you from Lee Strobel's book called The Case for the Real Jesus, and I really highly recommend that you get this and read it if you're interested in all, especially if these things are obstacles to you. My goal on this program, honestly, is to get you to seriously consider the claims of Jesus Christ for your own life. I'm going to read these quotes here. Now, these are from the attackers, okay? So this will give you a clear picture of what they're saying. Why should we consider the stories of Osiris? Now, these are ancient gods that predated Christianity. They were worshipped in other cultures, sometimes Persia, Asia Minor, Rome, before Christianity, Greece, etc., sometimes even Egypt. Why should we consider the stories of Osiris, Dionysius, Adonis, Attis, and Mithras, and the other pagan mystery saviors as fables, yet come across essentially the same story told in a Jewish context and believe it to be the biography of a carpenter from Bethlehem. Here's another quote. There is nothing the Jesus of the Gospels either said or did that cannot be shown to have originated thousands of years before in Egyptian mystery rites and other sacred liturgies. So the charge is that Christianity is a copycat religion. That there's nothing new in Christianity, that as was in the case for other religions, they just simply borrowed from the cultures before them and put their own story with their own characters in it, and there's nothing really true in it. Now, we all tend to believe what we hope is true. It's very hard to dissuade any of us, and I'll include myself in that, from what we hope to be true, but at least there ought to be good evidence and reason behind what we believe. And in a nutshell, here's what's been done with those charges. I'm going to sort of tell you what I'm going to tell you, and if you don't stay with me, I hope you will. But here's what really has happened. A group of mythical gods were worshipped before the time of Christ. Obviously, the Egyptians worshipped Ra, the sun god, and virtually every culture has its own gods. We know that. Among them, Osiris, Dionysius, Adonis, Attis, and Mithras. Now, here's what has actually happened. After Christianity, when Christianity began to spread throughout the world, as a matter of fact, you need to know this, that by the time the New Testament had been finished, let's say by 100 A.D., and I think John was written before that, but the last book, John, Revelation, were written about 90 A.D. actually. By that time, Christianity had spread throughout the entire Roman Empire. So, of course, it came in contact with a lot of other religions, because by the time of Christ, the Roman Empire was a hodgepodge of many religions from many cultures. And that makes sense because it conquered many cultures. So what happens is Christianity encounters those religions, and what happens is that those religions begin to borrow from Christianity. Yes, the gods that those religions worship predated Christianity, but the stories about dying and rising gods did not enter into those religions until a century or so after Christianity, and we can show that to be true. Now, what these guys have done is simply take the predated gods, the pre-Christian gods, and shove those resurrection stories, which don't have much parallel anyway, they've shoved those back in time to match when those gods were originally worshipped. And that is very deceptive. And they try to make it look like Christianity copied those other religions, and so virtually they're all the same. Because the gods predated Christ, it is assumed that the additions to their stories did too, and that Christianity copied them. The facts, when you look at it very closely, that argument absolutely falls apart. Here's the most famous line maybe from the Da Vinci Code. Nothing in Christianity is original. Here's another startling fact about this issue. Now, I hope you really get this. The whole issue of Christianity copying other religions was raised, this is nothing new, this was raised more than a century ago. And in the subsequent years, since actually between, let's say, 1920 and 1940, tons of research was done to investigate the claim that Christianity borrowed all these stories from ancient religions about dying and resurrection and so forth. And the research between 1920 and 1940 proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that that accusation was completely false. But those were before the days of the History Channel and Discovery Channel and so forth. So it's almost like they're saying, let's give this another whirl. Let's see if we can sell this story again, and we'll get some help from the media. As a matter of fact, one of the newer books that make this charge is called The Jesus Mysteries, and it was declared to be the book of the year by the Daily Telegraph of London in 1999. Now let me give you, and what happens is these things are so blown up on the internet and stuff's added, and there's just people read this and assume that it's actually a result of some scholarship. It's not.